The shareholders of Dubai Financial Market listed Arabtec Holding voted to discontinue the company and enter into proceedings for liquidation due to its untenable financial situation on September 30th. While some experts point to the fact that this liquidation process could have a significant impact on subcontractors and suppliers, others claim that it might benefit businesses if the liquidation works efficiently to protect creditors. I'm Anup Oommen, the Deputy Editor of Construction Week Middle East, and joining me today is Scott Hutton, partner at EKP Legal, who will talk to us about the impact of Arabtec's liquidation move on the market, as well as delayed payments, projects, and other issues plaguing the construction industry. To get the show started, thank you, Scott, for joining us here today.
No, absolute pleasure, Anup. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Scott. Let's address the elephant in the room, Arabtec. Is it a one-off situation or is it a reflection of the overall market? What does it mean for Arabtec to go into liquidation, and what impact will this have on the construction industry?
Well, look, it's huge news, right? Elephant, is bigger than that. This is a whale. Maybe even as Ahab's white whale, given the lack of liquidations we've seen in the UAE. But I don't think this is a one-off, and I wouldn't be surprised to see others following. We've seen other local entities with major problems, consistent turnover of management, huge books of receivables. And depending on how this Arabtec process goes, I think we're likely to see more entities follow suit. Unfortunately, in the short term, I think we may see some of Arabtec's creditors forced down the same route, perhaps through no fault of their own, but the nature of the beast. There's another high-profile entity here, Drake and Skull, has been going through the process of financial organisation. Recently went into financial organisation under the auspices and supervision of the Financial Reorganisation Committee. So Arabtec isn't alone in this at the moment. Drake and Skull going through it. It's not liquidation, but it's a similar controlled process to safeguard creditors. Now, as I said, Arabtec's liquidation is huge. It's huge for the industry. It's the first major entity to go through this liquidation process. And I think this will be a very, very public affair. We'll see the liquidation process playing out in a very visible manner. If it goes as the process is designed to, I think that potentially, and somewhat ironically, and Arabtec may not like this, but this could operate as a plus for the UAE. Showcase a bona fide liquidation process that offers genuine protection for creditors. The UAE system's often been criticised for its lack of public liquidation process, and perhaps rightly so. This is a real chance to show that the system works and it does exist to protect businesses. And for me, that's potentially a big plus for the UAE in terms of attracting foreign business, which has been a long-term goal, right? In terms of the impact, first of all, there's going to be pain amongst the suppliers and subcontractors. That's inevitable. Some of that could be pretty substantial, and as I say, I think there's a very real chance that some of those creditors will see themselves forced into a similar position and perhaps facing their own liquidation. But like I've alluded to there, once these first ripples of unrest die away, and again, this may sound harsh, but this perhaps should be viewed as a positive. It's no secret that Arabtec has been under financial pressure for a number of years, and arguably this is a very brave decision by the shareholders to put the company out of its misery. Too often we see these companies struggle on through various management changes, policy changes for years without any improvement. But they've made a call here, and we'll see it play out. And it's a brave call, and I think it's the right call. But what happens at the end of this? We're trying to look at positives here and pick some positives from it. What happens when the liquidation is complete? Will a phoenix rise from the ashes of Arabtec? That to me is a very real possibility. Construction market's been a state of flux for quite some time at the moment, but Arabtec has consistently been picking up contract awards. So there is work out there. We're well into what's been termed the fourth industrial revolution. Changes are happening, and maybe this forces entities to reconsider their strategy, to think about the future, to get rid of inefficiencies. That a lot of these big entities are carrying huge inefficiencies that the market simply won't tolerate now because the margins aren't there. There really are opportunities. The market and the pipeline in the construction market is still pretty big. And even if that's halved by 50%, it's still a decent looking pipeline. In the GCC market, it remains a very viable market. There are opportunities. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right. Scott, thank you for your straightforward and candid comments. Now, you mentioned a lack of margins in the market. While a lot of stakeholders are pointing to liquidity concerns in the market, we know that it's not a new challenge, and yet it remains a big one. Are these liquidity concerns getting worse? Also, how will COVID-19 negatively or the development of public-private partnerships positively impact these liquidity concerns?
Yeah, you're dead right. Anup, this is not a new problem, and I'm sure contractors all over the region will or have been shouting for a long time that money isn't being released as quickly as it should. Pre-COVID, the outlook in the region wasn't great, but it was okay. And COVID-19 just comes in as a hammer blow to the industry. Yeah, I think the liquidity issues may get worse before they get better, but that doesn't come without opportunity.
Right.
You raised PPP, public-private partnerships. Yeah, there are definitely opportunities there, right? Government expenditure is going to be down, so there's a gap for private partners to step into. However, all private contractors will have been hit to some extent, right? COVID-19 is not a GCC problem; it's a global problem. So globally, everyone is feeling the pain. So, are the entities out there that can step in? And something else, touching on both points, liquidity and partnerships. Over the last couple of years, the cash conversion cycle for contractors has really extended. So the period from doing work to getting paid over the last 18 months, that's extended by 100 days. And the cash, on average, the cash conversion cycle is now looking like somewhere in the region of a year to get payment. So you look at it on that basis, contractors are already partnering with developers because they're partially funding these projects to the extent of that delay in payment. So let's just take that a step further. Let's get contractors and developers looking at the model together. How can we work together in this? How can we partner to make things better? Let's look at more equitable splits on the risk, value engineering options, varied pricing models. There are opportunities out there, as I said, but we've got to get them right. Something that's been mentioned a lot, and I certainly talk a lot about it with clients, is this race to the bottom, where the lowest price always wins. And that's not necessarily the best method. I'd love to see some investigation into the true lifetime cost of a project to show that if we buy cheap now, we're going to pay for it down the line, and ultimately the expenditure will increase. It's that understanding, transparency, collaboration. Those, to me, transparency and collaboration are two concepts and words that I'm not going to get away from in the foreseeable future, because I think it's hugely important.
Right. Scott, you mentioned longer conversion cycles. In your opinion, will upcoming projects be delivered on time? And how likely is this to cause a ripple effect in terms of payments and disputes?
Honestly, if we look at project delivery, we're going to see delays. I think that's inevitable. It's been really difficult time for difficult time for everyone, right? But for contractors, the challenge of meeting set timetables while trying to deal with social distancing, and often at the same time as facing restricted cash flows, something has to give there. So a massive challenge. So I think it's inevitable that there is going to be a knock-on effect in terms of pricing and delay. You'll look at one example that I'm sure lots of people on here saw perhaps firsthand when the restrictions or lockdown was first announced, and with the restrictions on transport, the queues to get into construction sites were enormous. Just getting staff to site was causing hours and hours of delay, and that can't be recovered quickly, particularly when you're dealing with social distancing. So there has to be an effect to that. But with collaboration, and this should not all be lumped on one side. It shouldn't all be on the contractors. We're all in this together, and if we work together, we can all come out the other side of it.
Tough times ahead, but transparency and collaboration can help the industry move forward. It was great hearing your insights, Scott. Thanks for taking the time to join us today on the show.
Not at all. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Pleasure talking to you, Scott. For those of you watching, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and comment on these videos for more such videos with experts in the industry. You know the drill. That's all for now. And until next time, goodbye.